Welcome to another Red Card Huddle video where we'll be covering the World Cup final where Spain have defeated Argentina 1-0. And first and foremost, I want to congratulate Spain and all the Spanish fans of the Spanish national team on the World Cup, on winning the World Cup. I hope you guys have been able to enjoy it with your loved ones and the people that you love. Let's get right into the game. Obviously, from my perspective, I was obviously, this was like watching your children play. I think this is what Mama Kelsey felt in the Super Bowl, watching her two kids play against each other. On the one end, you had all eight of the Barca boys, more of them getting action today. Lamine Yamal, um, Cuarsi, Pedri, Eddie Garcia even getting a shift today. Dani Olmo putting in a shift as well. And on the other side, you had Messi, the greatest to ever do it in all of history and in his last dance potentially. And today, it just couldn't be for Argentina. For myself, I definitely lean more towards the Argentina side because I feel like these Barca boys are going to go on to win it all multiple times and their whole careers ahead of them. And just seeing my childhood legend, seeing the legend himself doing it one more time at 39 years old was something I was quite hopeful for. But, I didn't. Most of my feeling is mostly of sadness towards his potential last stand with the World Cup rather than, the pain for Argentina's loss because, this might be it. And it was just a privilege to see him perform at this level. But before I get into Argentina, I'll get into Spain's game because I think the occasion warrants it. Um, Make no mistake, this was utter domination by Spain from the first minute of the game up until the last minute of the game. Spain played did whatever it is that they wanted to. Rodri being the main man for Spain, imperial game. Um, he wasn't necessarily being pressed the best on whenever he was on the attacking half. Whenever he was in possession deep in his own half, it was Julian Alvarez who would mark him, but he spent a lot of time open. But he did whatever it is that he pleased on that pitch, quite honestly. I think that entire midfield ran laps around Argentina's. Dani Olmo, again, indetectable with bits of magic and flair. There was nothing you could really do about it. And the key to Spain's game was the utter domination of the ball, dispossessing Argentina every chance that they had and defending themselves with the ball. And it was just that they did not let Argentina sniff the ball at all. It was the key that got them past France, and it was the key that got them past Argentina. But despite that, they weren't able to create as much danger probably as they would have liked early on. The chance that they had with Lamine Yamal that deflects off of an Argentine defender that Diego Martinez manages to get a save on. But besides that, Argentina were never really a threat. I mean, that's about as dominant as it gets. Zero shots on target is a damning stat, and it's for a reason, and that's because Spain submitted them. And it wasn't this like spectacular showing from Spain, by the way. Spain were incredible. They were the better side. They deservedly won this and they obliterated the rival. But it was much more of a passive side than the Euro 2024 Spain. This was a Spain that was incredibly pragmatic. This was a Spain that looked relatively stale and flat, especially with Alex Baena on that left hand side. Their moment of explosion came in with Nico Williams. Nico Williams, who was an immediate threat when he came on. Nico Williams, who ends up getting an assist, but he had his opportunities to even make it 2-0 at some point, but he did try doing this chop that was weird that bounced off of his own feet. But with Alex Baena off that left hand side, you had a Spain side that would just aim to protect the ball. Oyarzabal really went under the radar. He wasn't able to get on the ball much. But Argentina just did not sniff it. They did not sniff an opportunity at all. You had who else? Honestly, all of Spain. There's no one except for maybe Dani Olmo and Rodri that they really took the game by the scruff of the neck and they said, we'll swing this side to side until we find our chance, our opportunity, and catch you off the breakaway at some point. Nico Williams has a chance also from a header that Diego Martinez saves well. Shortly after, I think Spain's best moments came in after he came on. At some point, Rodri was subbed off too, and Ferran came in and who turned out to be the man of the hour. And the script for Spain is just kind of hilarious. Ferran Torres, who think if you support Barca, you're his number one fan, and you're his biggest hater as well. At all at the same time. The experience is this: one moment he'll deliver, the other day you're incredible. You sit there in awe, thinking how it is that it's possible that you've missed what you've missed. And honestly, I'm glad that he got his moment to shine. My reaction when the ball went in was to laugh, because it was just the storyline is hilarious, that Ferran Torres is the one to get that goal, which comes from a beautiful bit of play um where Nico Williams is able to lay that off, and Ferran Torres just drills it into the net. Spectacular goal, and gives Spain the ultimate win. I think it was a perfect culmination. It was a surprise that it hadn't happened earlier, but it was a miracle that Argentina had lasted even that far into the game. But yeah, for Spain, it was just utter domination. It was utter domination. It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't, because the only thing close in this game was a scoreline. But it also warrants the Spain's passiveness that they had in this game. Spain were incredibly passive, but they were also sole masters of the ball throughout the entirety of the game, and they provided Argentina no possible outlet to play out the back and to create or generate any sort of chances at all. And I think Spain, I think this World Cup final and what Spain is heading towards with this generation of players can truly be a golden age. In all honesty, I think Spain have an advantage over every other national team, is that they have a mechanized style of play. You know how Spanish players play. You know how Spain plays. Ever since 2008 with Luis Aragonés, the way that man pretty much instilled and led the charge into bringing the Spanish Federation into instilling at all categories at the youth level, um, Spanish style football, imitating total football, Rinos Michels football, Johan Cruyff's football, the football that was gifted over by the Netherlands over to Barcelona, and Spain's been able to adopt that at every level, and the rest of the academies in Spain also mimic that, because you know the profile of players that you have in Spain. And when you throw in a little bit of magic, like in the likes of Lamine Yamal or Nico Williams, you're going to have a million Dani Olmos. You're going to have a million Rodris. You're going to have different iterations of Xavi Hernandez. You're going to have different iterations of Iniesta. You're going to have different iterations of Pau Cubarsí, of Laporte. You're going to have different Rodris, because you know what a Spanish player plays like in the midfield. You know that there's Rodri's coming up in Spain. You know that Spain are going to play that possession-based style of play that's mechanized, third-man runs. And, whether if it's a more passive iteration like this one in the 2026 World Cup, or a more aggressive one in the 2024 Euro that we managed to see, Spain has a predefined and predetermined way that they play that makes them look like a club side. They've translated this over to the women's game, which is where they've been so dominant, and which, by again, it matches up with Barca women's team also being spectacular at the time as well, and that being translated over to the women's national team. Also, at the Spain's U19, I believe, just became champions as well, and they're becoming champions at the U17, U16, every U15, every chance that they get. And Spain have this mechanized. You know what Spain play like at every level, at U21s, at U23s, at U19s, at U17s, at U15s. You know what Spain is going to play. And do you know how rare it is to be able to take pieces out of the puzzle and plug in another player and know that they're going to work just fine? In the Euros 2024 final, we see Rodri go down and Zubimendi slots in, plays perfectly well. At the Euro 2024, Pedri goes out, Dani Olmo comes in at the 10. This World Cup, Pedri's not playing at his best. Well, here comes Fabian Ruiz. Even in this final, in and of itself, Rodri comes out, Subimendi comes in, Oyarzabal comes out, Ferran Torres comes in. Probably the two quote unquote, you know what a Spanish center back is. Gerard Piqué. Well, now here's Pau Cubarsí. You know what they are, playing out the back nicely, being very eloquent on the ball. Iñigo Martinez on his day. Now you've got Laporte, but incoming you have other players like Dean Housen, who knows how to play at the back very well, although his level did not warrant or merit him being on this squad. Pedro Porro, you've got more. Grimaldo. You've got these guys coming in and are already in, and they're the same archetype at each position, and that is a competitive advantage for years to come. Because although some may see the end of the tournament, I see the beginning of a bright future for Spain that has a particular style of play mechanized, and ever since 2008, it's taken the team by the storm. And some years you might have more or less talent that will make you the difference makers, but because honestly, Luis Enrique, who's a hell of a coach, who we've seen has it proven now at PSG. With that 2022 side, what he was missing was a Nico Williams and a Lamine Yamal that were difference makers on the wings from this side. So sometimes the talent might not be there, and you'll end up stumping up against someone like they did in 2022. But once the level of talent arises, now you got Lamine Yamal, you've got a Nico Williams, and you've got players coming in. There's so many of these profiles of players coming in at all times. At all times. There's so many of them coming up and coming, and they're going to continue to produce. And Barca pumps these kids out like crazy. You know, you've got Marc Bernal incoming. You had everyone knew Lamine was coming. You've got David Moreno, who's on the ranks to come up as well. You've got even in Madrid, that kid, I think it's Gonzalo Garcia, his name, a striker that's very interesting profile. That looks like he could play very well. Also, you've got these Gavi, who didn't get a minute, but I'm sure soon enough he'll be very important to this side. There's just so many guys that can continue to replace this generation ongoing at such a regular basis that you know you're always gonna have a play out the back center back that's always elegant on the ball. You know you're gonna have a number 10 that's flashy. You know, previously in previous generations, it was Isco. It was Andres Iniesta. Now you've got Dani Olmo. You know, there's more coming. There's more on the way. You got the Tony and Guille Fernandez, who are really good players also. There's so much in the works. And who knows all the ones that are coming from the rest of the Spanish team academies as well. Spain are not short on talent and on these profiles, and they develop them constantly. Victor Munoz off the left, he's a guy that just got bought by Liverpool right now, who's for sure to restart him in the near future. There is this Oscar Gistel for the Barca side, who's set to be a really good player as well. They have so much up and coming talent that these guys they continue to pump out the same profile of players, and they've got differential makers right now in this squad. And if you know injuries respect them, and they have the mentality to train hard week in and week out, recover well, maintain their bodies, and be disciplined, man, this is only the beginning for Spain's dominance. And Spain at the national team level, because ever since they adopted it in 2008 with Luis Aragonés and continued under Vicente del Bosque, and you know Luis Enrique, they picked it up as well. You know they had the weird issue with Lopetegui there in 2018, but this is the brand of football that I love. This is the brand of football that made me fall in love with Barcelona when I was a kid. This was first instilled in the 90s by Johan Cruyff. The dream team even before that was Rinos Michels. This Spain embody the type of play that I love watching, that I love seeing. The ultimate mastery, total football of the ball, and you add in flashy wingers like Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams. It's everything that I love. And quite honestly, the sport was fair today. The football had needed this. You know, obviously, it pains me from an Argentina fan's perspective, but that's Spain played the best. Spain played the best football, and they embodied the best football, and they won, and they deservedly so, incredibly so. And I'm incredibly happy for the Barca boys, all of them. Who Ferran Torres, who got to have his moment, Pau Cubarsí, who's finally getting his flowers after, but Luis de la Fuente trying all that Dean Housen gimmick, and they used to compare this kid to Raul Asensio. Buzz off, bruh. Buzz off. Enough. Enough. And they did it without a single Madrid player. They had to go out and buy a Masia kid in order to try and get their one player into the team. But those are all Masia kid products. That is Barca's way, and it's clearly had an influence under Spain. And that's the way that Luis de la Fuente has taken this squad over to. And man, this is just remarkable stuff by Spain, and I think this is only the beginning. They're going to be a powerhouse, and in no time they're going to have the third star and the fourth star, and quite honestly, I see them getting to five. Yeah, I know it seems like so far fetched right now that them being only at two, but they've got all of the groundwork laid out for Spain to continue to improve upon themselves, and they have a generation of young players. Fermin, who got injured, who can add even more firepower to the side, who didn't make it at this um to this World Cup. There's so many guys that can slide into this squad, and the talent will could continue to be generated. And today, it was just all that from an individual standpoint. Like I said, Lamine Yamal not having necessarily his best game, but pinning Tagliafico back and doing his job off the press. Because the thing with the Spanish squad, everyone has to do their role. The team is above the collective, and everyone has a role to fulfill, and they all do it to perfection, and they all contribute to the perfect functioning of the team. Um, on the left hand side, Bayern, discreet. Nico Williams having an incredible cameo. Fabian Ruiz playing well. Pedri coming on with a fantastic cameo. Pedri, what a player who hadn't had his best of days, but the way Pedri came in, and again, if there's a guy that could pick a pass, that could swing the ball side to side, and really, he finally showed his best version in this World Cup final. Pedro Porro, again, having a hell of a game from the right hand side. Cucurella, needless to say, locked down on defense and can provide you a lot of proper build-up coming out the back. Falco Garcia, what is there to be said? Young player of the tournament with good reason. Spectacular. The Spain only receiving one goal the entire tournament. Americ Laporte turning back the time, looking like his prime version of himself. Is just from end to end. This Spain team is a well-deserved candidate, and uh, before heading into this World Cup, I would always tell everyone that I predicted Spain to win the World Cup, especially the way they played in 2024. And the only thing that had, messed up their formula of how they could potentially win this tournament was the injuries that they had, because they went into this battered. Nico Williams, obviously, under normal circumstances, he probably started, but he was injured. Coming off of Puvalkia, and even in the tournament having a adductor injury. Lamine Yamal getting the hamstring injury. Who else? Fermin crashing out and not being able to make the squad either because he gets injured. Um, there was a lot of injuries that were affecting this side, and they weren't arriving at the best level. You kind of question them, and all the doubts came in that tie against Cabo Verde, and people thought that they looked flat, that they looked stagnant, that they couldn't do it. Pedri wasn't looking at his best. Pedri, who you could tell was mentally fatigued and drained from the season, and but you had a Fabian Ruiz who was able to slot in there. Rodri slowly building himself into the tournament. Um, who else? I mean, Pau Cubarsí, then Laporte didn't skip a beat. Luis de la Fuente adjusting, understanding that Marcos Llorente wasn't your best bet out there. It was Pedro Porro. Cucurella always being discreet and getting his own throughout the tournament. But slowly, Spain started to settle into the tournament, and it looked like they were certain. Besides the Saudi game, they were passive. They were passive, and they would beat Portugal by the minimum. They beat Belgium by the minimum, and then they go and probably have their best game against France. And then you could just tell by that point in time, Spain were fully functioning. A lot of people thought they looked bland, and now here they are, World Cup champions. And I predict the only thing that gave me doubt is the way how passive they were. That I thought that passivity would have translated poorly against France. But if there was a team that could beat this France side, it was only going to be Spain. It really was, because this Spanish side dispossesses you of the ball, and you have no other option but to go and try and press them. But no one has an organized, mechanized high press that can challenge them at the international level. Not a single other national team has that to them. So that could only result in a Spanish win of this title, and it's spectacular stuff. Um, and yeah, honestly, and on now we can go in on the flip hand side, look to Argentina. And I think, like I said, I think the only way that a team could ever give this Spanish side some trouble would be with a high press. Because, quite honestly, the way Argentina were looking, it was going to have to be a matchups thing. Looking into it, you would think the only way that they could probably have matched this would have been a high press, a relentless high press, cutting off all passing lanes and winning those 50-50 duels, and at some point in time being able to submit Spain into a low block and see how they would respond to that for the first time, because Spain had never faced that in this term in this tournament, and who knows how they would have been able to handle being dispossessed and sitting in a low block and submitted for patterns of a time. But it was a matter of, could Argentina actually do it? And once the game started, I just immediately realized that they couldn't. And Argentina probably were betting on surviving up until the penalty shootout. Let's start with the lineup. Um, an incredibly difficult decision to make, because with Argentina, right, the 4-4-2 with the four midfielders leading into the game, there you knew there was going to be changes compared to the England game. Against England, it was Giuliano Simeone who got the head nod by Luis Scaloni to get into the starting 11, and it was Messi, Julian, Paredes, um, McAllister, Enzo Fernandez, Tagliafico off the left, center back pairing Cuti, Licha, and off the right, Molina, and on keeper Dibu Martinez. And what worked about that game is that Argentina, when they were playing the 4-4-2, where instead of Giuliano, it was De Paul, Argentina had no wing play, no outer play, because Tagliafico and Molina would try to be that, but they had to do so many defensive coverages, and they don't have that particular magic talent going forward that that's required off the wings. So Messi was having to put in right wing shifts at post the last cooling break in order to get his side to generate something from the outside and beat his man and generate dangerous crosses into the box, and you know gain numerical advantage by drawing players, taking them on, and laying off to the rest of his squad. And with against Spain, it was obvious that you were gonna need some sort of width, right? You didn't know if it was gonna come with Giuliano or if who was gonna sit out from that midfield, because it was a tough decision to make. And Scaloni opts for Nico Gonzalez to play off the left. And I think the most controversial thing that he does is he sits down Paredes and starts De Paul. Because with the Spanish side, right, you have three that mid. Spain is going to possess the ball. You know that everyone can possess the ball, and I think Cuti Romero and Lisandro Martinez do a really good job of retaining the ball. So does Julian, but there's certain Nico Gonzalez isn't the best at retaining the ball. McAllister has been having a horrible World Cup, and he had a horrible final. Enzo Fernandez, horrible final as well. We'll talk about that in a second. And the best midfielder that had looked as far as retaining the ball and progressing and carrying the ball forward had been Paredes all tournament long for Argentina. He started off on the bench, but every cameo he had, he was doing so well that he rightfully earned his starting spot. But then they come into this game and Paredes gets benched. And I'm sorry, for me, that is a critique I have for Scaloni for benching Paredes. I don't think Paredes should have been benched at all for this game. I think it would have been a tough decision to make. I know it's hard to leave the ball out of it, but I think McAllister hadn't given you reason to keep him on that pitch if you were going to go aim for the ball. But honestly, to me, this was a game of putting in your best players that are best on the ball, and I don't think that De Paul was going to be able to give you that coming in from the starting lineup. De Paul looked horrendous. Every ball that he had, he would give away. But that's always the case for McAllister and Enzo Fernandez. But initially, going into that, right, before heading into the dynamics of the game, I think Paredes could have provided you that. But ultimately, Scaloni opts against that. Nico Gonzalez starts, De Paul starts, and Argentina are not able to retain the ball at all with De Paul, with McAllister, and with Enzo Fernandez. Enzo Fernandez, who has an absolute howler of a game, and eventually earning his red card with such an idiotic foul. The first yellow, you could argue it's a bit harsh because he flails his arm at the referee, earns him a yellow. I mean, I don't know. It's the World Cup final. It's the foul that Enzo Fernandez was claiming for wasn't a foul at all. But I mean, I don't know. For me, it's a bit of a referee an arm flail that happens a million times a game. It can be given a card, so be it. It's given. And then, oh my God, this idiot Enzo Fernandez. Because yes, I'm on Argentina's side, but do not break my Barca players. do not break my Barca players. For the love of God, what are you doing to Cuarcy there? Flipping him in the air like that. I don't know if he does it like that well, but my goodness, stupid challenge that earns him a well-deserved red. But even before that, let's discuss. Like, Argentina were not sniffing the ball. Rodrigo de Paul, every touch he had, he would give it away. Every single touch that he had, he was just giving it away. He didn't look like he knew where he was standing. Enzo Fernandez also giving the ball away, trying to do getting too fancy with things and giving the ball away. Makali said horrendously as well, not being able to build anything out of that. And they had looked up, these three dudes had looked like that before. But previously, it was Paredes that would eventually get the rhythm going. Paredes would eventually, he would secure a pass, get the ball over to Messi. But no, these guys could not do that at all. And it was just utter domination from Spain's side. They didn't know where they were standing. And, and then your best opportunities were coming from Tagliafico, who's doing a pretty decent job on Lamine Yamal. And you had Lisandro Martinez playing out the ball off the back, seeing if he could connect uh with Nico Gonzalez. Nico Gonzalez, who every chance that he had, genuinely could not do anything with it because certain times he was on the ball right, but he just couldn't finish well. He couldn't finish his action well. He'd take the wrong touch. He would make the wrong pass. He wouldn't do the right thing. It was incredibly frustrating to see. Just a guy that, yes, provides you with, but that's when he's not on his day. He's not very talented. He doesn't give you enough, especially in a World Cup final that the the odds are at an all-time high. The stakes, it's just you're not gonna get. You need to be able to perform accordingly, especially against the side. You need to be a dagger off the wings. That's another way you could punish them. If you're going to park the bus, have directness of violence on the wings. And that wasn't the case this time. And Nico Gonzalez was, the few chances that they did have were long balls by Lisandro, seeing if he could maybe connect with either Julian, who didn't win or collect any of those. Um, and it's just, it's just ridiculous to me. And then also just the luck of the game for Argentina. Cuti Romero going down injured. Lisandro Martinez going down injured. You Scaloni that's two subs wasted, and that's two windows to make subs wasted. You sub in Paredes at some point during that time. Enzo Fernandez goes out. It's just everything that could go wrong for Argentina in this final did. Both of your starting center backs going down, injured, who we know how incredibly good they are in dual wins, but also playing out the back. Lisandro Martinez is probably the main outlet that they had to be able to try and at least put a decent long ball moving forward. Um, and I mean, it's just you have those two go down. Eventually, I forgot to mention Montiel starts. And Montiel is having a decent game. I still don't know to this day. I've looked around for information, but does Montiel get injured? I don't know. Montiel looked like he didn't want to come out. And Scaloni wastes another sub on Montiel for Molina. For what? That made literally no difference at all whatsoever. If anything, Molina looked worse than Montiel did. But you waste another window there. And all of a sudden you wasted all your subs. Paredes comes in, but at this point, the game's gone. The dynamics is poor. He comes in horrendously too. And his shameful acts at the end of the game, they're extremely pathetic. It's just everything that could go wrong went wrong. And then up top, I mean, what do you want Julian and Messi to do? There's nothing to be done. Once that midfield is completely erased, and with 10 men, when Spain finally goes up and Ferran gets a shot, well, that's when they start force feeding Messi. That's when they start lunging forward with their hearts. I'm sorry, but at that point, that's when Messi starts to generate things somehow, some way. The chance that Simeone crosses over, that Senesi's on the end. That's another sub that was made in extra time once Argentina had another window. Lautaro Martinez doesn't, because of all the subs that were made, doesn't get an opportunity to get into the game, which is harsh in my opinion because he had such brilliant cameos and had been scoring. He scored in the quarterfinals, he scored in the semifinals. Divo Martinez, who's probably Argentina's best player, having remarkable saves, and you just thought if they make it to the penalties, it might be Divo's game once again. But that was just too much to ask for Argentina, to be quite honest. Messi, Messi and Julian, they can't do anything. They literally could not do anything. When you're dispossessed, you literally can't do a single thing. Messi, in order to generate things, he has to be on the ball. And I don't know. you have to force feed him. And once Argentina, as soon as that happened, they should have been force feeding him, but they don't start force feeding him until they go down 1-0. Oh, now all of a sudden it's been the tournament. It's been the story of the whole tournament for Argentina. Once they go down, that's when they kick it up a notch. And Messi's been able to carry them through that round by round by round by round. And once you start force feeding him, putting in shifts off the right. But today, it wasn't probably the best matchup, but force feeding him down the middle. That was the only time that Messi would get on the ball. He was able to generate some sort of something. Giuliano Simeone, who has that pass back to Senesi's coming in, crashing at the box, but it's Cubarsí who has a remarkable save. And then Giuliano Simeone, who has the opportunity after the crossback, he gets on it and he's not able to put his foot on it and sends it over the bar. Those are the only two quote unquote chances that Argentina have. The other one was where I think is it Nico Gonzalez that whiffs it, and it's Messi that's maybe getting there on the end of it. And then I forgot who recovers it, but he doesn't feed it back over to the point. It's just stupid decisions, bro. With the little bit of chances and times that you had, you aren't able to even punish on that. When you don't have the ball, I mean, if there's no use with these attackers, what is there to say? What is there to say whenever you're playing this defensively, this pin back into your box about a 39-year-old Messi and Julian who's up there breaking his back trying to press, but the rest of the press just does not work. Not even the mid block doesn't work, the low block isn't working. It's just, and you can't get him the ball under any sort of circumstances at all. Even when he drops deep, no one gives him a right ball. No one connects a pass. It's just up until, even with 10 men, until they go down, that's when they finally show some sort of link up and intent. And I'm sorry, but that's just ultimately too late, bro. That midfield needed to show up, and they simply did not. And, Messi, I mean, what can you say about Messi in this final? He's just, it isn't even about service. It's about, having force feeding him the ball, and they couldn't even manage to do that. They couldn't even give it to Messi and pray. They just couldn't get the part to give it to Messi. At this point in time, the man had been ultimately ultra efficient in administering his physicality to be as damaging as he could. But man, you have to get him the ball. They couldn't even get him on the ball. And when he did lay it off, the returns were horrendous all game long, and there's just nothing to be done. There is nothing to be done. And Spain earned their deserved win. I just don't understand the plan that Scaloni went there with. I think the only way to have tried to beat the Spanish side was to do a complete and utter high press, be a nuisance, kind of deploy the same thing that Atletico Madrid does against Barcelona, and being absolutely insane on the press, man to man, bullying them off the ball, winning those 50-50 duels. But at no point in time did Argentina show any intent in being able to do that, sustaining that for a single second. It was never going to work in the mid block because they were just going to dance circles around you. And, bringing on Giuliano Simeone, just the subs not going your way at all. There was just no way around it. It was utter domination by Spain, quite honestly. And yeah, I think I know there's a bunch of things to address regarding the narratives and everything that's run around Messi, but I think in this video I just wanted to focus on the footballing aspect of it, and nothing more than congratulate Spain and be real incredibly happy for all the Barca boys in particular about their World Cup title. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.